Henshin a go baby. What's good, guys? Yoku here, and I've been testing Alice for like 3 days, maybe. This is a first impressions video, if that wasn't obvious from the title. But jumping right into things, guys, I think Alice is like is probably a better thing they took. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's a good thing they took away crit. Now, me personally, because I'm really greedy, I would have loved it. But I think had they not done that, this character would be rivaling Miyabi. And I know that might seem like something that a lot of the audience wants, right? Like even myself, I would want something that rivals Miyabi, not because I want to put Miyabi out of her place or anything like that, but more so that I just want more power. That's me, right? Like that's me personally. That might not be you. Going into Alice and like talking more about Alice, there's a couple different things that I want to go over in today's video as far as the first impressions go. So what we're going to be going over today is pretty much the teams, or rather a couple of different teams that I've tested, or different partners. I think partners is probably a better thing, right? Like team shells, which characters work better or worse for her, what they may or may not do for her compared to somebody else, or a different type of driver, or DPS, main DPS. We're also going to be talking about the different sets, which, to be honest, I'm just going to shortcut that. It's not really any different sets. I'm quite literally just running 4-piece Fang Metal the entire time. You can swap the 2-piece to whatever you want, right? I tested out 2-piece Chaos Jazz or Freedom Blues, right? Because the plus 30% AP. I tested out 2-piece Anomaly Mastery, which I feel like Anomaly Mastery is more so the go-to. Like I really like that one. But I also tested out 2-piece attack, so that'd be Astral or Hormone Punch. Didn't really see a big difference between that, and I'll explain that a little bit more later on in the video. But that's the second thing that we're probably gonna be talking about, or one of the other things that we'll be talking about. The next thing that we're gonna be going over is how she performs, my opinions on her, and what I like about this character, what I don't like about that character, so on and so forth. And lastly, I really don't have a lot. I guess the meta, right? I mean, I always do that, right? Where I feel like this character is going to be placed in the meta or team wise. And I feel like, also shout outs to you guys, by the way, because I'm going to try and start doing this a little more often. Instead of looking at characters as a sole value, even though it's pretty easy for me to do that, I think we're moving into a direction, or rather it's more comfortable for me to be able to talk about that in a direction with you guys that watch my videos. I can now start talking about teams and their viability, right? Like if we're talking about meta, I can tell you like top 3 teams, top 5 teams, top whatever team. And so that way you get more of an idea of which characters are at the top, or which teams are at the top, and which characters may or may not be able to rotate out of those teams. Without further ado, and I've wasted enough of your time, let's jump right into EO's first impressions of Alice Thymefield. Yeah, that's how you pronounce her name, Thymefield. So for starters, let's talk about Alice and her base kit or base form, which, to be fair, the easiest way I can explain Alice to you while I have some gameplay in the background, and I'll even do you one better. I'm going to show you everything that the character demo is going to show you in the game. The only thing they really tell you is to focus on building up her stacks or building up her blade etiquette, which you pretty much do from everything at this point. If I'm not mistaken, before blade etiquette was very hard to do, or rather very hard to build up, because a lot of the moves that she didn't give her any etiquette. But now every single thing she does, pretty much any physical attack she's doing, going to be able to help her build up that blade etiquette. On top of that, disorders, whenever you trigger disorders or someone else triggers any other anomaly, that's also going to be able to apply into her blade etiquette. Her ultimate is going to give her 2 full bars of blade etiquette, and her EX skills, as well as the assist counters or parries, all of that is going to give her blade etiquette. So what used to be very difficult to build up, especially when it comes to like team combos and rotations, is now incredibly easy. Too easy, in fact. And we can talk about this for a bit, because this is going to play a huge factor into how some of these teams perform. Alice is a character that, again, the previous build of this character, to my understanding, had a very rough time. And it kind of went from like broken, and then the next build came out and she was pretty not great, right? Like ass, I'm just gonna say it. And then now we have this build, which I believe is gonna be the build that you guys get in the live version of the game. And this feels like, I don't wanna say perfect, but it feels like the sweet spot for where Alice needs to be as far as like falling in the meta. She's not too weak, she's not too strong, and we'll talk about more of her place in the meta, or like her team comps and things like that later on towards the end of the video. But right now, going over how her base kit functions after explaining the blade etiquette and you guys watching the character demo, that's pretty much it. There's nothing else to talk about when it comes to this character from a base level. I'll save all the other details for like something else, or like another video, the guide or anything like that, because there's a little bit of tech here and there, but she is a almost one-to-one physical version of Miyabi, right? Like you play Miyabi, you mash the button, you build up stacks, you do the enhanced basic attack, you swap out because of the crazy iframes that are available, and then you take advantage of everything going on. Now, where she differs from Miyabi, and this is what I really like about this character, is that you are able to abuse disorders back to back to back to back, and you're going to see that a lot in my gameplay. Now, her preferred partner, or rather her best partner, I should say, and this is kind of jumping into the team section just a little bit, I do believe is Yanagi, but doing a lot of playing with all these different teams, and I actually think that's not the case. Not that it's not her best partner, but I don't think she has like one key partner that's above every single other partner. But that's just me rambling right now. Finishing off the base kit, we've already explained how she performs, or rather what she's doing, how you're building up these stacks, why you're building up these stacks, and then how you dish out all of her damage, and that's just it. Oh, and then I forgot to talk about the most important thing, obviously, which is going to be the polarized assault. Here's the key thing about this that's really sweet. I'm still working on it, but I was able to figure something out with Yanagi and her, and this is why I'm talking about Yanagi so much. Polarized assault basically works the same exact way that regular assault does. The difference is the game is reading this as a completely different attribute. So this falls under the same category. I want to say Ishwen's rupture ether status falls under. This falls under the same category as polarized disorder from Yanagi, although that's not really an attribute, but it still has the same like type of coding, if you will, the same coding line. And then you also have Miyabi, who has the Frostfire instead of just regular ice. And frost basically counts as ice, but it's a whole different property or attribute when it comes to how the game reads it. Polarized assault is the exact same way. Now, there's one particular thing about this that is a great thing, but it's also like a double-edged sword. Polarized assault does not follow any ICD rules. If you are somehow able to ramp up polarized assault, or rather her enhanced basic attack, almost within a couple seconds, there is no ICD. She will immediately pop polarized assault. You do it, there's polarized assault, boom, boom, boom. You can do it as many times as you build this meter, right? That's the ICD. How fast does it take you to build this meter? Some combos give you polarized assault almost immediately. There's a lot of gameplay that I have with Yanagi that you might be able to see in this video here, where you'll see me do a combo or two combos during the stun window, right outside of the stun window, and you'll see me get polarized assault, disorder, ult, polarized assault. So it's literally within like a couple seconds, 2 to 3 seconds, and I do another polarized assault, which gives me like crazy amounts of damage, especially when it comes to the disorder and the anomaly abuse that these two characters are able to do. The downside to that is that the actual assault, the ICD for that, because she builds it up so well, like she's very smooth at building this up. I have not had any issues with her building up her own assault at all. Even if she's the only physical unit on the team, she is building up assault perfectly fine on her own. And then you have the other characters. Now, if you're using Yuzuha, for instance, Yuzuha is going to double down and help out that third character, right? So Yanagi, Bernice, Vivian, and this works wonderful for that type of stuff. But when you have a team like Alice, Yuzuha, and Yanagi, and at some point you could probably even replace Yuzuha with Astra if you wanted to. The key thing here is that you are going to have to find a sweet spot with it when it comes to like anomaly mastery or attack percent 6 or anything of the sort, right? Energy region, if you want to do that. There's a couple different options you have. I'm still working out the kinks here. Point being is that they build up the anomaly bar too fast, to the point where I'm running into issues with this particular team where I'm sitting on ICD, so I can't trigger disorder and I can't trigger the attribute anomaly either, because the ICD for me to pop it, I've just gotten it too fast. So there'll be situations where I'll use Yanagi, she'll do shock, I'll do polarized assault and then regular assault at the same time. And then that counts as like a regular disorder. I'll go back into Yanagi. and then I can't trigger the extra disorder or the other disorder, but I can trigger polarized disorder, but it's still sitting there. And so this is beneficial. Like there's a lot of pros and cons, right? This is beneficial for Yanagi because with her energy, I can trigger as many polarized assaults or polarized disorders as I have the energy to do that. Polarized disorder also counts as giving the attribute anomaly, or rather the blade etiquettes, to Alice, which is going to build up that bar on top of whatever Alice is doing, allowing me to use more polarized assaults as many times as I want to. And then eventually the ICD of the disorder is going to, pop off, the cooldown goes away. And then one of them is going to pop another disorder, rinse, wash, and repeat. This also gets in the way if you're using Yuzuha or any other middle person for the matter that builds up their own bar or adds into the bar, because if they pop disorder, well, that still counts as the disorder cooldown activating. So I know this was like a little bit of a long-winded basic breakdown of the character, but these are my first impressions. This is just something that I'm kind of giving you guys so that you're more aware of some of the issues that I ran into when playing this team. Now, are these issues actual issues? Like, would this ruin a run? Absolutely not. I think the worst case scenario was when I ran mono physical. And even then, if I'm not mistaken, the time that I got on the mono physical run for the Shiyu 7 versus Jane, was it Jane? It might have been Jane. If it wasn't Jane, then it was a Deadly Assault unit, but I don't remember. The point being is that the time that I got on that was like quick. I think it was maybe like 120, 131, something like that. Like it wasn't too far off from what I was normally getting, which, to be fair, the average time for me was anywhere between 120 to 140, depending on the unit and depending on how the run went. So mono physical's issue was literally just running into I can't pop assault, right? Like I can pop a disorder because polarized assault will disorder off of itself or disorder off of its own assault, but I can't do anything else after that. So it was a little bit there, but we've talked enough about the basics. Let's jump into the team comps because I'm kind of already there, right? As far as the teams go and different types of characters, I think Alice is a wonderful unit. I feel like she plays extremely well with almost every single anomaly unit on the board. In fact, I would go as far to say that Alice is basically another Miyabi. Again, that might sound crazy to some people, but when you get your hands on this character, now that the CE server videos are starting to pop out and you guys can see this for yourself, I'm pretty positive me saying this and then you verifying with your footage shouldn't be as crazy as it sounds. Miyabi is so versatile as a character, especially an anomaly unit, that she's able to pretty much work with anyone in the game, some way, some shape or form. If you are skilled enough, you can make it happen. Alice is right under her, whereas I might not be able to make every single unit work with Alice, but as far as every anomaly unit goes and some attack units as well, I'm able to make Alice work perfectly fine. Another thing about Alice that I really enjoy, and this is kind of like Anomaly's thing for the most part, is that they fluctuate very well when it comes to playing main DPS and sub DPS roles. So if I want to play sub DPS, or not even if I want to, when I need to play sub DPS Alice and I need to main field Yanagi, for instance, I'm easily able to do that by just swapping the rotation, right? So instead of leaving Alice on the field for a little longer, I just swap her off and I stay on Nagi. This is going to help me build up energy so I don't have any energy issues. It's going to help me kind of control the ICD issues that I was running into earlier, and then a few other things depending on the fight or the boss or whatever's going on, right? Adapting to the situation. It's stuff like this that puts Miyabi above everyone else, right? And now you have Alice, which is pure anomaly, doing the same thing. And what's crazy about her is that even though she doesn't really care for crit, that doesn't stop you from potentially building crit. Now, I know that's crazy. I'm not recommending that anyone build crit. I'm just saying that the option exists. If you happen to have some really cracked pieces, you are actually able to benefit from having the crit on her. It won't do a tremendous amount, but since she's doing a lot of basic attacks anyway, it kind of feels like a mini Jane in a way. But then you get into what happens if you play Alice with Jane. Okay, so this is where the sub DPS stuff comes into play. When you play Alice with Jane, it is quick swap central. I mean, I legit feel like I'm playing Wuthering Waves. Every single thing you do is swapping somebody off of the field. You're on the field with these characters no more than 3 to 5 seconds tops. Jane is on the field. She's doing a lot of quick assist attacks, or the coming in, right? The coming in attacks from quick assist. She's doing a lot of her EX skill if she has that energy for it. She's doing very few of her hold attacks. You do them when you have them, or when you have the opportunity to do them, you pop ult. And then same thing with Alice. Alice comes out, she's doing her enhanced basic attacks. She's doing a lot of EX skills. But for the most part, because you're sitting on that ICD for so long, you kind of just play whatever it is that you need to be doing. Now, of course, again, first impressions, right? I got to keep reminding you guys about that so people understand that nothing that I'm talking about right now is finalized. I have not spent weeks playing the character to fully adapt or learn everything about them. I'm sure that once the game, or rather once the character officially comes out, I'll have more information, or rather more experience playing that stuff, and then I'll be a little bit more adept at what I'm doing. But for right now, at the time of me recording this video, that's just what I got. So maybe there is a way to control the ICD and I don't have to deal with that, but it is what it is for now. Now, a team that did surprise me, even though I kind of felt like I knew they were going to work because, you know, Anomaly, but it surprised me how smooth and how fluid these teams were, rather these two characters were. I'm talking about Bernice and Vivian. Oh my gosh. If something is in the game, seeing so many, like I see it with Yanagi. Let me clarify that first, right? I see it with Yanagi where you see like disorder, assault, shock, disorder, right? Because of the polarized. So you see a lot of that going on. With Vivian in particular, not only do you see disorder, polarized assault, regular assault, you see the corruption pops and you see a blooms, but then on top of that, you get more polarized assaults. It's really nice. And then the polarized assaults can trigger another chain reaction that gives you like double a bloom back to back, depending on what happens. You're using up all of her stacks. It gets to a point where if you're playing, I don't want to say optimally, but more so bursty, if you will, like a burst style of gameplay, you can annihilate all 5 of her feather blooms, right? Her feather stacks. You can just delete all 5 of them in 2 seconds, depending on the combo that you have stored and ready to go. And then all of that damage, right? Blooms are already doing a huge chunk of the enemy's HP. Assault is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, anomaly attribute in the game. So it's already doing, depending on, you know, how you're building this team or how you're playing this team, her assaults on average are popping anywhere from like 750k to over 1 million. And then on top of that, you get polarized assault, which is doing a stronger version of that. Like it's a crazy amount of damage back to back to back to back to back. So you're seeing 800k, 1 million, 1.2, 800k, 750k, like, and then a blooms, right? 600k, 600k, corruption happens, 448k. Like there's a lot going on with just Vivian, and you can play her with anyone in the middle, right? You can play this team with Lucy. You can play this team with Astra. You can play this team with Yuzuha. You can play this team with Caesar if you wanted to. It's not really a limit on what you can do. And I feel like that's what makes her, again, right under Miyabi. Now, I'm not saying that Alice is like number 2, right? Like if I had a top 3 DPS, Alice is number 2. I'm not saying that just yet. I'm specifically talking about the versatility behind Miyabi and what makes her so strong as a character. Alice is right there. So going back to one of my videos, I made a very particular statement. And then I said at that time, if you happen to be skipping Miyabi or you miss Miyabi, whatever, you can pick up Alice and you will not notice a dramatic difference. I'm starting to see that come to life now, right? Like that statement, that hypothesis time, or that theory, it's becoming more and more true, especially when you get your hands on this character and you start playing it. But let's go ahead and knock out the Bernice section, or rather talk about Bernice, which is very similar to Vivian in a way. But funnily enough, I think Bernice might be a little stronger than Vivian, not in terms of the character, but in terms of like playing her with Alice. Now, what's cool about Alice and Vivian, just to like go back to that for a moment, is that the EX skill that Alice has available to her, you really don't use a lot of energy when it comes to using this character. So building it up and keeping energy at all times is pretty easy to do. So you can always activate a bloom whenever you need to. But then you get into a situation, or rather you flip it and you go over with Bernice. Bernice doesn't need you to use any energy at all, but you use the energy in order to take out as many assaults as possible so that you can keep those burns up, tick, 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 tick. What I really like about Bernice is that Bernice is more of an on-fielder in this particular team, where you're building up your energy, you're playing her a little bit more on field, you're doing some EX skills, 1-2, 1-2 tap, 1-1 tap, things like that, or combo notations like that in order to make it work. But now you're mixing up how you operate. And this is something that I learned with Yanagi in particular, and I just kind of brought it over to all the other teams. You have to learn how to operate your on and off mode. And what I mean by that is when you have flinch or when you have assault and it's activated on the enemy, you need to be aware of that and you need to go for the burn. When you have burn, you need to be aware of that and go for the assault. And because there's so much happening on the screen at all times, it gets very difficult to be able to see what's going on. Bernice makes this even harder because when the enemy has the nitro burn, the afterburn on them, they're always burned. So there's always a burn marker, like some flames on the enemy. So it's very difficult for you to tell when they're burned, and they have afterburn. And then you're also trying to look for the assault because they're both like a bright yellow. Well, I guess the afterburn is like an orange, but you get what I'm saying. The team just works. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this to you guys. But like I said, it's easy to do, man. It's so smooth. Another team that I tried was Jane. And like I explained earlier, which I'll keep this team brief because I'm still not done testing it. And it does feel a little uncomfortable to me, but it feels really straightforward, right? I'm sure that's not the case with this team because like I said, there are issues that I'm running into, which is the ICD. And because everything is monophysical, I think the difference between trying to operate monophysical, because I did see a lot of those questions pop up on Twitter, was that like, yo, is monophysical going to be as strong as mono ice? Like, do we think monophysical is going to, you know, match mono ice or outdo it? And the answer is immediately no. There's like no way in hell you're going to be able to out damage mono ice or outperform mono ice with monophysical. And there's a key reason why. Polarized assault, it's an option, right? Like a technique. But Miyabi has a whole different element. And this is what allows her to basically freeze and freeze again, but they count as two different freezes. If in the event we got Alice and they gave Alice her own version of assault, and her assault counted as a regular assault in game, but it also was coded for, like, you know how we have Frostfire, maybe they call it this new assault like grunge assault or dirty assault. Just come up with whatever, you know, brutal assault, right? They call it brutal assault. If she had something like brutal assault, then yeah, you could be doing anomalies on top of anomalies plus the disorder that happens naturally because it doesn't count as a regular assault. But her having polarized assault, well, you doing monophysical doesn't take away from the fact that Alice is still a physical character. And so that's a regular assault she's always going to trigger, which means when you do trigger that and you go into Jane, well, Jane builds up Anomaly like crazy, like really fast. You aren't going to have the time to be able to use assault and then do it again immediately. There are some windows with the ICD timing that makes it almost immediate. It feels super immediate. But what actually is happening here is you're triggering polarized assault off of something else that's a disorder, it's clearing it, and then you're going for another assault, whatever the case may be. But ending this off, and like I said, I haven't really done all of the testing. This is just the first impressions of the monophysical team. I don't like it as much as I do the other teams. If I had to tier out all of the teams as of right now, I would definitely say Alice plus Yanagi is my absolute favorite team shell that she has in the game right now. Alice plus Bernice is my second favorite team shell. Vivian is right under that. And then I would have Jane at the absolute bottom. This doesn't mean she's bad. Like I said, I got a very fast clear time with monophysical. It is a brutal team. It's very fast because assault is just that strong. I'm just not a big fan of it because of the ICD issue. Now, eventually, if I figure out a way or someone else figures out a way and I learn that it can just kind of get ignored or we just don't have to worry about it, or we can clear it faster than I'm doing right now, then sure, awesome. I'll definitely reconsider how I feel about monophysical, but as of right now, it's just the bottom. But this is the bottom of like quickly becoming my favorite character, right? Like Alice is one of my favorite characters in the game right now to play because she's right there next to Miyabi. And then lastly, wrapping that off, I know this team section was long, guys, but I'm really just like, if you can't tell, I like this character. Like there's a lot about this character that just feels fresh, feels nice. And even though it does kind of feel like a copy and paste of Miyabi in some ways, it's still fresh enough, at least for me, that I'm able to have a lot more fun with the different teams that are available to us. The last one I want to talk about is Yanagi, and I'll keep it brief in a few sentences here, right? Because they're actually going to get their own video, which I do believe is going to be my very next video that I release for Alice. It's going to be Alice and Yanagi. So I'll keep all the details for that video. In this brief, short sentence, Alice and Yanagi is freaking busted, okay? The ability to shock, assault, shock, disorder, polarized disorder, and polarized assault all in the same combo in a matter of a couple different button presses is absolutely insane. Their ability to both play as a main DPS and a sub DPS is too fluid. I absolutely love it. There are times where you're going to be maining or having like a driver, that's what I call it. You're going to be driving Alice on field, and then you're going to have Yanagi in the back. There's a time after that, right? Same fight, you're going to swap it up. You're going to have Nagi on the field, and then you're going to have Alice in the back. They have iframes that are crazy because just like Miyabi with the enhanced basic attack, Alice has the same thing. Yanagi's going to be able to take advantage of that. Putting Yuzuha in the middle is just perfect because now you're able to build with that electric anomaly like nobody's business. Again, this could work with Astra, this could work with Lucy, this could work with Caesar, whatever middle unit you want to use, but I'm using the best unit as of right now because that's what I'm doing my testing with, and because I kind of just have them on my account. Finally, we can talk about the build, which again, I mentioned it earlier in the video. There's really nothing different about it, to be honest. The one thing that I will say is that you can play around with the build. It's not a static build, which I do like a lot. It reminds me of just Anomaly as a whole, because Anomaly is very good at taking a particular standard build and then you mix it up, you change it up, whatever it is you want to do based off your needs for whatever team you're playing. I know a lot of people are very used to just like, hey, this one character has this one build and that's all it is. But Zenless is such a good game. The way the disk drive mechanic functions, you can actually like change everything. If you know what it is that you're doing, if you understand the game, I say this all the time, you can build whatever it is that you want. Alice in particular, we can have Anomaly Mastery 6. We can have physical pin or attack percent on disc 5. And we can have AP, attack percent, or even crit rate on disc 4. And you can still get optimal or viable or super strong results depending on how you're playing this team. Then you have your second teammate or your third teammate. Well, what about Yanagi, right? Well, we can run Anomaly Mastery on Yanagi, but if we're running Yuzuha, maybe we don't need Anomaly Mastery because she's kind of making up for it now. Maybe we have our W engine, so we don't need electric damage bonus. And now we can run pin, we can run attack percent, we can run crit rate 4. I probably wouldn't, but you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of different things you can do. I've tried with this particular team, I tried every single build that I can think of in that time. My Yanagi, there's a run where I did attack percent and she was doing absurd damage, but I wasn't able to, it's not that I wasn't building Anomaly as fast, is that I wasn't clearing it off as fast as I wanted. So I was running out of energy. So then I swapped over to Energy Regen, and Energy Regen felt the smoothest, to be fair, but the damage wasn't there because now I'm forced to drive Alice on field a little bit more, which isn't a bad thing by most means, but tried Anomaly Mastery as well. Anomaly Mastery felt pretty good, but then I was running into a similar ICD issue that I was running in with Jane. But like I said, I'm going to leave the full details for the next video that we're going over. Too long, didn't read, in case you don't see that video. I love the team. It's a great team. And me personally, I think the team is top 3 in the game. Now, this rounds us off into the last little bit of our video, which is the meta discussion. I think out of everything we have in the game, Alice, Yuzuha, and Yanagi, top 3 team in the game. I'm not sure if I would say it's number 2 or number 3. The ones in my head right now would be obviously Miyabi with Mono Ice, or any Miyabi team for that matter, but I'm trying to stick to like just the actual team. So we'll go with Mono Ice. I think the second team, maybe Ishwin's team, right? Ishwin, Panda, and you could, you know, change whatever you want. Jafufu, Panda, Qingyi, Panda. Trigger Panda isn't as strong as the other 2 options. It's great, but it's not as strong as the other 2 options given what current enemies Ishwin faces right now. So that would probably be 2 or 3. And then I would say Alice, Yuzu, and Nagi is number 3. But the reason I'm saying that I feel like Alice, Yuzu, and Nagi is probably number 2 is simply because of the fact it doesn't care what it fights. Like guys, I know I say the same thing about Miyabi, right? I tell y'all all the time, I say Miyabi, that team, or all of Miyabi's teams for the most part, when you have a character that's like, Guzzlord is 40-something% resistant towards ice. It's incredibly difficult to build up Anomaly versus Guzzlord or any of the miasma bosses for the matter, because they're all ice resistant. Here's Miyabi, or just Mono Ice in general, destroying the bosses anyway. Like, I don't care if you're resistant. You know that meme that I said last time, like I can't read anyway, right? That's Miyabi. Okay, now take the same concept but apply it to Alice and Yanagi. It's not that they can't read, it's that the abilities of, or rather the mechanic disorder as a mechanic is just dumb. It's great, it's great, I love it, but it's just dumb. Okay, and then you add on to the fact, like, let's say you had M1 Alice. Okay, well now you get defense reduction. Let's say that you had M1 Yuzu. Okay, well now you get all of this damage percent. You get this defense reduction on top of that. She's building up her own form of meter incredibly fast. M1 Nagi, they're dead. You add W engines into the mix, they're dead. They just don't care. So meta wise, if I'm wrapping up all of Alice here, I really do believe this character team wise is top 3. And I think this character, just solo character, I think Alice is top 2, bro. I'm not even gonna hold you. And it's tough. It's very, like I said, it's tough for me to say that, bro. But like Anomaly is just, it's too good. Anomaly is too good. You get all the benefits of what an attack type unit takes advantage of, right? And then you also get all the benefits of whatever Anomaly's doing. You have no negative. What's the negative, bro? Oh, well, you can't play crit. Why would I care about crit when I'm in, like, literally front loaded and back loaded damage, 1,000,000 damage? Okay, I popped an assault, like in Jane's case. Oh, you popped your assault like at the beginning of the round or beginning of the match, a little too early. So instead of getting 1.2 million on your assault, you get 450 million or 450,000 on your assault. But that's just the first 2 assaults. Mind you, you've already done 2 assaults in less than 8 seconds. Every assault after 8 seconds is 1,000,000 or 800,000 plus damage. Why would I care? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's how strong Anomaly is. Now you take Alice and you do the same thing with Alice, and like now Alice is crazy, but she has assault and she has polarized assault. Then her disorders, she's triggering disorders off of your partner, depending on who your Anomaly unit is. And when you combine 2 cracked out Anomaly units doing some insane damage together, both of them, right? So like, this is the best part. This is the best part about this team or these teams. No matter which partner you use, no matter who triggers the disorder, you will always get an absurd amount of damage. It's too good, guys. I'm telling y'all, Alice is fire. Now this isn't, this does sound like me shilling. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. It's just my excitement for the character. I'm not even trying to convince don't even pull the character. Don't pull Alice. I'm not even trying to convince nobody to pull the character, okay? I'm just letting you guys know this character's top tier. She cracked, she busted, she's and it's wonderful. I've tested her against like not physical weak enemies just because I don't want the same curse that we have with Jane, right? Where Jane, hey man, Jane does a thing, it's not physical weak, and she's had a very rough time. Right now, and this could change in the future, but right now, versus enemies that are not physical weak, I've tested her versus Butcher. I've tested her versus Pompey, the red Pompey. I've tested her versus Guzzlord, any of the miasma bosses. I have not fought at least not for you guys to watch, the new boss. The only reason I'm not doing that, for 2 reasons actually. One, it's a massive spoiler to my newer players. If my new players haven't caught up to that yet, it's a huge spoiler to them. So I don't want to show that off in my videos. And then 2, I'm not comfortable with that fight just yet to be able to do it and then say like, oh yeah, this is the best way to run that fight. So like, here's the best result possible for this particular fight. Like, nah, I'm not doing that. But outside of that, I fought her against physical weak enemies. She's clearing in like a minute and a half, no matter what it is. Deadly Assault, my average score right now for my Deadly Assaults is about 40K, a little under, a little higher. I'm sure if I clean it up, if I get better, maybe if I have better builds, I don't know, I could probably shoot for like a 50, 55K. Getting 60K on a lot of things, which I think this is a good thing, and we'll wrap the video up right here. What I will end off with, and we'll talk about this by the time you watch this video, I probably would have already talked about it on stream, but what I do like that the game is moving in a direction now where to get those sub 60-second clears, to get those kills outside of mono ice for the obvious reasons, it's getting to a point now where you do need some insanely cracked gear, or you need a M1, you know, like M1 on a team, M1 Astra, M1 Yuzu, M1 Lighter, like it doesn't really matter, right? Getting to a point now where you do need M1. I know that sounds a little bit off-putting for maybe some of the players who don't want to get any of the mindscapes, or, you know, they don't want to invest into the game like that, but they want to try and get that 60K kill. Unfortunately, it's becoming a skill check, and it's becoming a power check or a DPS check, if you will, damage check, something, right? But I think that's a good thing, because if it's just like in Starro, right? Early on in Starro, once we learned how to do it, everybody and their mama was doing 0 cycles, and 0 cycles became a thing of the past. They were not impressive anymore, right? Because everybody could do it. Now it's getting to a point where it's literally pure skill is getting you the sub 60-second clear, or it's getting you the kill and deadly assault. And then now if you can't do that, right, or sometimes it's required, you get the M1, and it still takes pure skill. So that it is what it is. I don't know, but damn, I don't know how I gave you guys like a 30-minute first impressions video. This is the first time I've ever done something like this. All right, normally I don't do that, but it is what it is. I'm gonna get out of here, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on Alice as a whole, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, the other videos that you've seen. If you want me to test something in particular while I still have the time, let me know. The team breakdowns that I'm thinking about doing for videos, I know that I'm gonna do the Alice and Nagi video, obviously. I really want to do Alice and Bernice or Alice and Vivian. I'm not entirely too sure if they get their own video. You guys let me know. Should I combine them into one video or make them separate? I'm kind of feeling separate, to be fair, but it also kind of feels like playing the same team in a way sometimes, I don't know. And with Alice, let me know about a free-to-play team, right? I'm not the best free-to-play player because I don't really think free-to-play all the time. So you guys tell me, what's the free-to-play team you want me to see with Alice? Off the top of my head, I'm thinking it's Alice, Piper, and Lucy. That kind of seems to be like the go-to thing, right? But y'all let me know if it's something different. If it's something different, I'll test it. We'll make a video on it. Anyway, I can't say my user outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Fuck, how did I mess that up? I can't say my user outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Smell you later.